Welcome to the Balancing Ambitions podcast. I'm your host, Kim Menapace. You are not alone in your pursuit to balance family life, work, side hustles, and taking care of yourself. Balance is not easy to achieve by any means, but we can all work to get better at it together by sharing our stories, tips, and wisdom. Let's dive into this week's episode. Welcome to this week's episode of the Balancing Ambitions podcast. I'm so excited to have Laila Farally on the podcast today. So Laila is a graduate from Penn State, where she studied hospitality and worked for big name brands like Marriott and Hilton and opening net new locations for them. She switched into the family business of fine jewelry back in 2018, where her family runs Sunshine Fine Jewelry in the Philadelphia area and is in the middle of opening a second location that she'll share with us on this show. She is a Airbnb owner, but does not manage her Airbnb, which I highly recommend as well at times for folks, given the life stage you're in. She's a midterm rental owner, long-term rental owner, and also is an expecting mom, not just a mom of a toddler. So welcome to the show, Laila.
Oh, thank you so much, Kim. I'm honored to be here today.
Awesome. And let me know if I missed anything. I know we did that on the fly and there's a lot to unpack here. So super excited to get into this. So let's talk about your first part of your career in hospitality. So to walk me through what it was like working for those big brands.
Oh my gosh. When I actually started with a finance degree, because my mom was like, go into finance, I'll make you tons of money. And when I went to Penn State, I dread all my finance classes. And I remember attending a hospitality course. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. I fell in love. It felt like it was my passion, it was my calling. So after I graduated, I went to Gaithersburg, Maryland, and joined a Marriott sales team there. And it was amazing. It was such a great experience learning all the different types of hotels, the select service, the full service, the luxury. So I just had an amazing time learning about how to service. And we did a whole program where we got to know the different departments in each. So I was a housekeeper, I was a waitress, I was in front desk and back of the house. So it was like full service for sure, kind of learning all the different avenues. And I just kind of fell in love with it more. Um, and then I kind of missed home because that was in DC. So I came back to Philadelphia and landed with Hilton, a hotel called the Inn at Penn and University of Pennsylvania. And we service a lot of the college students and a lot of MBAs that come in, did a lot of amazing events and really fell into love with sales and events at that point. I worked there for a couple of years, and then we opened the Logan Hotel in Philadelphia. I was part of the opening sales team, and that was just a great experience all in itself. And then I wanted to take a little break from hospitality and join the family business.
Amazing. So with the hotel background, do you have any crazy stories that you can remember from those days that you're allowed to share? I'm sure you've seen the full gamut of craziness and things you wouldn't expect, but yeah, I'd love to hear a fun story you had from that experience.
Oh my God, it's so funny because I there was an experience that I came back from Montreal, and one of my friend that was there, she used her husband's name because they have a company together. So the reservation was under her husband's name. And the front desk staff was like, I'm sorry, it has to be under your name because she didn't add it. And she was a little upset, but I told her after the story. While I was working at a hotel, I won't say which hotel, we had a person come in, a lady come in, it's like, oh, my husband is here and I left my key. So would you be able to give me the room key? And of course, we checked her ID and it matched with her husband's last name and everything like that. So back then it was like, okay, that makes sense. Well, it happens that the husband had a mistress. So in so she went upstairs and it was a whole commotion, but we had full training that from now on, the name has to match the reservation. So there was a lot to learn for sure.
Oh, that's so interesting because I think you learn all of those lessons real
Yeah.
time. And it makes sense that hotels do that too. But even as Airbnb owners, we're learning all of those quirks and things that seem plausible, and then you think of what could go wrong or it does go wrong, you say, "Okay, great, we've learned this, we're adding this to our handbook, and then we're gonna continue on and learn." We wanna minimize the learnings, but continue to iterate on that stuff. Wow, I'm not surprised. That's
Absolutely.
every place that I go now, yeah, we have to be very careful on whose reservation and who's the one checking it in and everything, or if we're both on the reservation, then it's more kosher.
Absolutely. And then it wasn't that we were lenient, but it just the story matched up. It made sense, and he was a frequent guest, so we knew the wife. So it was also a relationship thing there. So we didn't assume anything, but now lesson learned for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can try to use that street smart and all of that other contextual information, but sometimes it can end up like that. That's oh man, the funny story. Yeah, I'm sure there's crazy other crazy stories like that. We can switch gears to the fine jewelry business. So tell me about that and what are you involved in the designing of the jewelry? Are you sales? Yeah, what's your part within the family business?
Yes. So I am in sales and marketing in the business. And I'll share a little story about how we actually started because it's something of a journey for my parents. My parents was part of the Khmer Rouge War in Cambodia. And they're a middle class family then, and they had a business. And Pol Pot, the leader of Khmer Rouge, came in and said they were going to organize the city. So they kind of packed up everybody and told everybody to leave the inner city and come back in 3 days. Of course, that was a lie, and they went into hard labor. And they were in war for 7 years. So my parents lost everything. And what saved them was gold. They remember they had exchanged all the money that they had into gold to get safe passage. So it was kind of like a way for them to store as an investment because at that time currency wasn't anything during the war. But if you had something like, of course, food, um, gold, jewelry, or anything like that, it was of value. Um, so their journey started um, when they started collecting to try to figure out to get back to the UN, which is in Thailand, to get safe passage to United States or Australia. And they had paid coyotes kind of thing, kind of like somebody that would bring them to Thailand. And they paid about several gold rings in order to get them there. They finally made it to the UN where they finally had safe passage. And I was born there in the refugee camp. And we stayed there for about a year and a half. And then um, after about a year and a half, my grandfather, who was in Philadelphia, told us that, hey, if we put our name in the lottery system for family unification, that I would be able to bring them, and my grandfather would be able to bring us home or bring us to the United States. So it took him about a year and a half, and we finally got that lucky call. So we landed in Philadelphia and kind of stayed ever since. But how they got into the jewelry industry was very interesting. They worked at factories, did Chinese takeout for 7 years to save up money. And then an opportunity presented itself. My uncle, who's a goldsmith, asked, hey, do you want to partner? You have the funds, I have the skills, so let's partner. And this partnership took in 1999, and they opened up a store in North Philadelphia by a plaza. And they only stayed there for about a year due to break-ins, and it wasn't a great location. So they decided to move to South Philadelphia. So we're kind of like in a great neighborhood where it's a melting pot. We have the Italian market, a little Saigon area, and a little Mexican area as well. So it's kind of like all intertwined, and it's such a great neighborhood. And we landed here in 2000, and we've kind of been here ever since. And my uncle and my mom decided to part ways in 2004, and he opened his own jewelry shop, and we kind of stayed and kind of continue on the legacy of of my parents. And so that's kind of like how she started. My parents started the business.
I am so touched by that. I'm speechless. I remember you sharing bits and pieces of this when we first spoke, but it's just so touching. I have chills the second time hearing it and hearing it in more detail than the first time. Wow, just incredible for your upbringing started in the, with in these foundational 1.5 years, and even though you might not be conscious of it, all the subconscious and, paradigm setting and experiences you had from all of that, that's incredible. And then for your parents and their resilience and their resourcefulness and the skills and the discipline, that's incredible. So thank you for sharing that story because that's not one you hear every day.
Yeah,
S
and I think that they're in all of them because they don't speak English. And they're able to do this and risk everything that they had just to get a better life for their kids. Because we were raised by neighbors or people down the street because they didn't have time to really raise us. And I think that they decided to switch gear was because my brother is diabetic, he's special needs, and they just wanted to spend more time with him. And they figured a jewelry industry would give them that kind of 9 to 5 where they're able to come home and be with the kids. Because most of our childhood, my sister and I have an older sister who's 5 years older, and I'm the middle child. We have a younger brother. They were just never there for us. Not that they didn't want to be, but really because they were just working all the time. So it was a way for them to kind of give us a better life. And so I'm in awe of them. And then for my sister and I who is taking over the business now, we just want to continue on that legacy and just kind of continue on what they built from the ground up.
And it's such a beautiful story because I distinctly remember in my business classes, I also started with a finance focus and dropped it very quickly because that was not what I liked either. I liked marketing,
That's
and I did accounting. I was really good at it, but I didn't like it. I didn't want that to be my career. So I can relate on the finance part. I just feel like I'm still scarred from those classes. But
right. I
yeah.
know.
So
True.
but in business school, they talk about the classic example to explain margin on product is
Mm.
a food store has small margin, high volume, and a jewelry store has that bigger margin, but lower. The sales velocity is slower because these are more expensive pieces. There's more thought consideration. There's probably relationship building with your customers, especially being in their location for 24 years. Is that right? And the new location. So in business, 25 years. So I just remember that, but I think that people really latch onto brands with meaning now. I went to a Facebook event several years ago, and they talked about how that's such a core and critical piece of businesses now. They want to make sure they align with the values of the business, not just the surface level product or service anymore. And so I think having such a beautiful, deep rooted story that's international and just so complex and touching is so cool to be a part of your business story. And so it's very intertwined. So yeah, I think that's something that's really special and unique. It's not, oh, this is a high margin business. We thought we just start here to make money. It's so much deeper than that, which is very cool.
Absolutely. And that's funny that you said that because for the longest time, my parents were like, please don't share our story. Please don't share. I'm like, Mom, you have such a beautiful story. These were my bedtime stories that she was telling us about war and what's going on in the world. And I said that people need to hear this because I think they would enjoy it. They would understand why you made that shift and why you try so hard. We were open 7 days a week. And that was for a good, we didn't start closing for until after COVID. So 7 days a week from 10 o'clock to 6 p.m. they would open every single day. And that was the same as in the Chinese takeout as well. They would open 7 days a week. And I asked her, like, why wouldn't she take some time just to relax? And my parents can't relax. I don't think they'll ever retire, even though we're trying to get them to retire and just enjoy life. But I think it's the fear from what happened to them is that anytime somebody could come in and take away everything that they worked for. So they're kind of building this to nest, to kind of keep the, to kind of build something so they make sure that if somebody comes in, they'll have enough money to support the family. So it's just definitely a fear base for them right now. So we're
That's
trying.
and there's Ed Milet and Dean Graziosi have done several podcast episodes together,
Mhm.
and they've talked about this like it's common knowledge. They say you're either running away from something in pain or you're running towards pleasure. And they said that's each of us has that driver in us. And I think a lot of people are running or fear. They do that fear base is driving their motivation, their grit, their discipline. And so that's kind of more, I think, like how I feel as well. And definitely a very different background and upbringing and situation. But it's interesting that that's still there. And that's so hard to shift and change and relax from,
Mhm.
especially at our parents' ages right now. I mean, we're both in our 30s, I know, so it's so deeply ingrained, and you still have probably those memories that feel like yesterday, even though they're decades ago.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
And it's incredible that those were your bedtime stories because I think about shows and movies like even Jack Ryan. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but season one, they had someone exchanging jewelry for coyotes, helping them do passages. And I think of it there and it feels so foreign, but to hear the story from you and say, oh, wow, this is really does happen, is really interesting and enlightening.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was interesting bedtime stories. I was just like, okay, but now I could appreciate it a bit more because I'm reading bedtime stories to my little one and we're talking about rainbows and dreams and imagination. And it's just, it kind of brings me full circle to, wow, my mom didn't have that experience with me that I think that she wished she did.
Mhm.
So I'm just kind of remembering the past and I want to make sure that I tell my little ones about what grandma went through so they could appreciate all the beauty and all the amazing opportunities that they have here.
That's amazing. Amazing. It's so beautiful. All right, let's talk about the next chapter of Sunshine Fine Jewelry.
Oh,
What's
we're
going on?
so excited. So my sister and I were opening a second location in Media, Pennsylvania, and it's actually a different take on our current, we call it the OG jewelry store, the original one. Um, so this new store, we're kind of bringing events. It's going to be more of an opulent feel. It's going to have all of our bestsellers from online and all of across from our first jewelry store. So it's going to be hand selected and a lot of personalized items. I think what we want to pivot to is that we want we want people to buy jewelry, but it has to have a purpose. There I think that's what I'm falling in love with is creating these moments for people. There are so many stories that we could share when a mom came in to buy a nameplate for her daughter, her 13-year-old daughter. And we just asked, oh, is there a special occasion? I was like, she got straight A's and I want to celebrate her. I want to celebrate I want to celebrate her at every single milestone. And it was such a beautiful moment because the minute that we handcrafted it and made it into her name, put a little diamond where the eye is, and she presented it at the store, the little girl started to cry because that's all she wanted. Like she wanted these nameplate just like all the celebrities had, and she just felt like she achieved it. So those are the moments that we're trying to recreate for everybody and personalize everything in our jewelry store so that when they look at that jewelry, they're reminded of it, takes them back to that particular moment that whoever gave it to them gave it for a special reason.
It's amazing because I think that some of the stuff on Etsy and even Little Words Project, I've been making
Mhm.
bracelets with their certain phrases or words that mean a lot to me. I think part of the success and explosion of things like Etsy, it's not just personalization, but also personalization of jewelry, getting little necklaces with an initial of your child's name on it. And I agree with you that that's always going to do well, and the mm, emotional value that's into that's now in that necklace is so much more and immeasurable compared to whatever it cost monetarily. No, that's amazing. Well, I can't wait to hear more. And what type of events do you think the second store will cater to?
Absolutely. So we're thinking of jewelry making class, like kind of a mommy and me class. And we're thinking of permanent jewelry parties, ear piercing parties, engagement ring try on, and a lot of education. I think because we have fine jewelry, we have 24 karat, 18 karat, um, white gold, and we also have a line of travel jewelries that we just want to educate people. How do you take care of these fine jewelry? from cleaning to repair to storage. So a lot of education-based events as well. Because I find that people, when they buy fine jewelry, they come back the next week and said, "What happened?" It's like, well, you can't shower with it, you can't sleep with it. So certain care things that they just wasn't aware of. So we'll make sure to address all that.
So the older I get, the realize how little I know about certain maintenance about everything. I think even, getting my HVAC serviced twice a year, I'm like, oh, I didn't know I should be doing unless you hear it from people like your parents or friends or something, you just don't know. And
Oh,
I'm probably the worst with my jewelry. I remember when I got my engagement ring and Dave got a warranty on it. So I bring it back every 6 months and they check for loose stones and I could get it re-dipped because it was white gold every, as much as I wanted.
yeah.
And they said, "Do you wear this 24/7?" I said, "Yes." They're like, It doesn't, your engagement ring doesn't need to see what your sink looks like when you're washing dishes. And you shouldn't be doing that." And I was terrible and I kept doing it anyway. So I'm one of the worst offenders, but I love education. So teach me about how to care for it, what to do, what not to do, and I'll follow it. But it's just something you don't get proactively from anywhere. And then if you want to seek it out or it starts to get on your radar from marketing, like your background, I think that people would really be interested in it instead of dealing with damage and repercussions later.
Yeah. And Kim, as busy moms, I hardly take off my jewelry when I was in kind of the newborn stage. So I just keep a pair of diamond studs. And then I just won't wear my engagement ring because, of course, at that time I'm bloated. um, a little bloated. But just kind of like simple classic jewelry, and I just leave it on. And that's fine. It's more of like when you go into kind of like the thinner golds and things like that that you have to care for. But I'm with you. It's hard. It's like jewelry is the last thing people do care for because they have other things to care for, like a little baby, a little toddler running around. So it is the last thing I'm on the to-do list for sure, but we hope to change that and make it easy and make it fun as well.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great segue into the next topic I want to talk about, which is family life. You're a wife, you're a mom of a toddler, and expecting. So, how have you found ways to juggle all of that stuff?
Mindset. For sure. I think that the best advice, my aunt who has 4 kids, I said, "How did you do it?" Because she was opening a business during that time. And she said, "I just didn't think about it and I just did it." Because I think as women, we tend to kind of sit there and think and plan our day out in our head. And the more that we plan, I feel like the more I get overwhelmed. I was like, wow, I have a lot to do. So I just decided to take each day, each moment at a time. It's like, I'm gonna get this done. I know I'm gonna get this done. And I have the passion and drive to do it because I want to open this business and I wanted to see it succeed. But I also want to make sure that my family life is intact and everybody is fed and happy. And the way that my husband and I have been sharing this moment is that we're just in the moment and being grateful for the time that we have. Because, of course, tomorrow is not promised. And when we take it day by day like that, it's a little bit more palatable than just kind of planning for the whole year, planning for the whole month, and all the little activities that come. So
I
that's
love, I love that. I have trouble with that day by day and hour by hour. And you probably struggle with this too. So I'd love to hear what your approach is to this because the to-do lists for various facets of life just start growing. And unless I tackle it with a plan for the day or the week, I get stressed or I jump onto something lower priority because it's easier or it became top of my consciousness. And so I jump on that and then I get stressed because something else that's probably more important I didn't do first. And so I love that being super present. I think that's it's such a tough tug of war between the two and a balance between the two. So yeah, with that being present, how do you prioritize to help create that ease so that you can be present and take it day by day? Like you said, tomorrow is not promised.
yeah, I can't remember where this method is that if you write down, so my to-do list, I have 30 things on the to-do list each week. And you're right, it's from business to family life, to appointments, to paying the bills. But once I look at that, I have to pick 3 each day. three each day that I'm going to tackle, and that I know that I need to do this in order to meet the deadline of what's happening next or what's happening down the week. So each category I pick three. So for business, I picked three, personal three, anything that I could do. And then after I complete the three, if I don't complete the three, I'm on that three until I complete it. And then I tackle the next three. I was like, okay, what is the next three that I can do in order to move forward? And a lot of times it's also getting delegation. I don't like asking for help. I know my husband, he's in politics, so he's kind of crazy. But I realize asking for help, like reaching out to my friends now, learning how to ask, because it does take a village, and it's been really helpful. And you and I had talked a little bit, is like that book, Who Not How. And that book really changed my life, because it's my perspective is like, oh, I need to do this. It was like, how do I do this? Well, instead of saying how, who can help me do this? And it just saves up so much time. So um, we're definitely getting mother's helper and a nanny and all that fun stuff for sure. Just so I know that I will be very busy once this new baby comes in March.
Accept all the help. I think that's also the beauty of a second child. You realize and you kind of are a 180 from the first time where you probably were more shy or hesitant to ask for help. I felt like I was much more open and uh, uh, outspoken about asking for
Yeah.
help because I had learned that the help was there. I just wasn't accepting it. And then also reaching out proactively at times and having it be very welcome. So I think that's great that you have that awareness going into baby number two.
Yes, I will give that baby anybody to any no, I'm kidding. But anybody who's willing to hold the baby, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and, on the mindset topic, as we met through a mindset mentorship, what are some of the very found what's one foundational idea that you've learned that's really changed this year for you with the mindset work you've done that would be really helpful for someone who's brand new to mindset?
Yes. That the idea that your thoughts create things, that you can control your thoughts. Like I think um, that was my biggest takeaway this year as I journeyed in mindset. And I remember I'm not new to mindset, but definitely studying and understanding material, I'm definitely new. And with my background as growing up with parents who had a lot of fear base, I knew that if I wanted to do anything, I needed to get this away from the fear, doubt, and worry. And this mindset class that we're in really taught me, it was like, if I don't, that I don't need to have fear, I don't need to have doubt, I don't need to have worry, because everything always works out anyway. So that is my biggest takeaway. I mean, there's so much that we could go into that, but um, I just don't have any fear anymore, Kim. Is that weird to say? Like, I'm
Beautiful. That's great. That's the goal.
and having this surprise baby, and I'm 39, so it's more to the age where I wanted to really just enjoy life and not think about a baby. There's a lot of fear with kind of giving birth to a baby at this age. And I had when we found out that we were pregnant, I just for a month and a half I couldn't accept it, because I was too fearful. I was like, what if the baby, what if this, what if that? There's a lot of ifs. And working through that mindset really was um, life saving, I would say, because it took me out of my own head and really made me focus on what I want. What is it that I want? Not what could be, but what is it that I want this baby to be? Healthy, happy, easy pregnancy, all that thing. And the truth is that everything that we think about, we could have. So I just don't have any fear. I know this baby's going to be happy and beautiful, and um, life is going to be great. And
I love that. And I think you become what you think about is something our mentor has said a lot as well. And I think that visualizing and thinking about who is that superwoman Layla in the future and in the not too distant future that is still that young, sprightly mom, despite whatever number is assigned to your quote unquote age, and embodying her now so that it's not plaguing you and feeling like it's this, a different set of circumstances and way you want to carry yourself throughout the world. And I think that that's mindset has helped me a lot on that. And I also think I love that if you flip that around and say, you're never going to become what you don't think about. You're never going to get that promotion if you're in a more of a traditional W-2 track, or become that business owner of multiple locations, or wake up in your dream home, or have your dream car, your dream family, if you don't think about it, and so it sounds so obvious, but you become what you think about, and you don't become what you don't think about. If you don't spend the energy, time, and effort thinking about what you want and how you want to be and come and show up to the world, you're not going to have it.
No, absolutely. And Kim, this second location, this idea didn't start until December of 2023, January of 2024. And opening a location was not even in the cards. It wasn't even an idea. And then it was a thought that after one of the coaching events, I was like, what if we could open a second location and serve more people? And then idea grew into a focus, and that focus grew into a plan, a definite plan, and that plan came to tuition just by thinking and visualizing this beautiful store that we could have. I just couldn't believe, well, now I could believe, but before I just couldn't believe that it came true so quickly within the year.
And do you see your power being able to do that in 1 year? We hear people in our mentorship have ideas for 10 years, 20 years before they move it from thought into form into the physical world. And you did that in a year. You get it, got to give yourself more credit than you're doing.
It's just yeah, it was an idea, and I just started calling people and just calling the network of people that says, hey, I'm just looking for a location, this is where I'm looking for, and if you hear anything, please let me know. And then it just kind of worked out when somebody just kept me on the top of their mind, and they gave me a call. But I did call every 3 months, so I did my work. So you, of course, you have to do your work. But I called every 3 months. I sent emails. I made sure to go to every single networking event so people knew my face, and knew that I was looking for a storefront in that location. So
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to follow along virtually. Someday, maybe when I'm in the Philadelphia area, I will come hit you up and check out these locations. But what's one final tip you'd like to leave listeners with on how you juggle being a wife, motherhood, business owner, career pivots? What's one tip you could leave people with?
oh my God, there's so many. Um, but if there's one, I would say it's never too late to follow your dreams. And I know that's like cheesy, but at 39, I finally figured out what I want to do and what I want to be, what kind of person I want to be. So I would, I would tell all your amazing listeners that take some time and spend time with yourself with a journal, and just kind of dream about everything that you could possibly want in life, and then go after it one by one, because it's never too late.
Love that. And I think tapping into wants you may have had in the past, kind of waking those up and letting them not be dormant anymore. You might find something like that where an idea can move from thought to form to the physical world in a year like you. So with this amazing store opening in December. So I love that.
Thanks.
Right. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you or see more about Sunshine Fine Jewelry?
Sure. Our social tag is at Sunshine Jewelry Inc. We're on Instagram, Facebook. And then you could also email me at Laila at sunshinejewelryinc.com. And I'm always available.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And everyone, have a beautiful day.
Thank you, Kim, for having me. Have a great day, everyone.
As always, if you enjoyed this show, please leave a review, because when you leave a review or share an episode, you make it easier for someone else to find us and benefit from these stories and tips we share. There is a link to everything we talked about in the show notes. Thank you all for listening to the Balancing Ambitions podcast and have a beautiful day.